Really quite shocked to see this now. What is emerging from the American political right, that this is explicitly Nazi.
This movement is gaining ground because it feeds on division. If you point it out, it becomes bigger. What we're dealing with is evil, and evil must be called by name. But that we have to make sure we're not making more enemies and making people more famous. Just stand on the truth. The problem, I think, that is happening with some Christians is...
Glenn Beck, it really is an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Do you always require people to wear a tie and a jacket?
Yes, it's absolutely mandatory from now on.
I mean, I knew you English were uptight, but wow.
Well, it's good to start on a light note, but actually I wanted to talk to you about something serious, which is that, one of the reasons I've held you in such high esteem is because you, throughout your career, have called out great evils. You've called out the Davos lot, you've called out the lunacies on the left and wokery and all that stuff. And it seems to me, I'm really quite shocked to see this now, what is emerging from the American political right, and I'm not sure if it's at the political level or it's just the commentariat level, but obvious anti-Semitism. I mean, medieval blood libel is being put out on the airwaves in social media. We have pro-Hitler with the Groyper movement. This is explicitly Nazi and
evil.
I thought it was a fringe thing for a long time. It was 2-5% of any extreme in any society, but now it seems to be growing to a bigger thing.
I'm not sure of the numbers. I mean, when you're living in it and around, it would be easy to go, that's 40% of the movement. It's not that. I'm not sure it's 2% either. Because everything, I mean, what was so helpful was when Elon Musk started saying, here's the origin of this tweet. Because now the internet is just full of lies. And, this movement is gaining ground because it feeds on division. And so if you point it out, it becomes bigger. Every time you try to fight it and call it out, it loves that. It consumes that, and it becomes bigger, at least online. So I'm hoping that it's not as big as it seems, but I honestly don't know.
Well, that sort of implies that one shouldn't talk about it then, if you don't want to feed the beast.
No, I don't. I talked about this last night. You were at a speech I gave last night, and what we're dealing with is evil, and evil must be called by name. It must be called by name. And you have to stand against it. I don't want to personalize it because fame or likes or views might play some role in that. So I don't want to personalize it, but I will absolutely talk about the evil and the lies that are being perpetrated.
Yes.
I just don't want to make anybody famous.
Well, that's fair enough. And then that means the ideas have to be faced head on.
Yes.
And so it's worth tackling some of those. I mean, we don't have the time now into tackling some of the sort of medieval blind libel. That would take a 6-part documentary, I'm sure, to expose that, the long history of that. Which I actually think originates in my country, shamefully. But
it does.
Part of it does seem to be coming from the Christian right, which is very curious to me. I might be wrong about this, but the reason I say that is 6 months ago or so, there was this Christ is King movement, which now, look, I'm a Christian, and I do believe Christ is King, but I do believe that some people were using that intentionally to exclude Jews. Yeah. I also think it's the case that a lot of these commentators have, crosses in the background, or they'll say prayers on Twitter, and they'll really show off their faith, so to speak, or their quote-unquote faith, and they're tangling it up with their religion. Do you think that's a phenomenon? Do you think I'm wrong to think that?
No, I think you just have to be careful. I don't want to throw babies out with bathwater. I pray on the air. I will do my best to say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because that will include We're a Judeo-Christian country. However, there are also times that I talk about Christ because I'm a Christian, but not at the exclusion of others. And that's where it becomes a problem. I don't fault you. Look, if I go to, have Shabbat dinner, I'm not expecting them to pray and close in the name of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I got it. And I have no problem with that. This is the way they're praying, and I'm a guest in your house. And so we should celebrate everybody's experience with God, okay? And not exclude. With that being said, the problem I think that is happening with some Christians is this purity test. I mean, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. So I'm the Jew of the Christian world. And, there are people that will say all the time, well, you're not a Christian. You're not a Christian. Well, okay. I don't know how you're defining that, but, I believe I am. And it doesn't matter to me what you say. It does matter to me if you're using that to exclude me from being a decent human being that believes in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and is worthy to stand with you in a fight against evil. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When it comes to Jews, what I'm afraid of is this movement that is very much like it is with Mormons. No, you don't accept Jesus. That's one step. The next step is you're a Christ killer. That's a whole different world. You know what I mean? One's bad, one's much worse. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid it starts the same way every time. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling here. But, I've been watching this and warning since about 2003. Antisemitism of the 1930s is going to be seen on the streets of America because it always comes with collectivism. It always comes with socialism, always. And we've seen it rise so fast now. And it's interesting that it's playing out exactly the same way it did in Germany.
Did you expect that? Because I imagine back then you were thinking on the left. It's been rampant on the left in a Hitlerite type of way, in a collectivist type of way for some time.
I know,
and remains so.
I know history well enough to know it doesn't stay there. Okay, anti-Semitism, when it comes to it's not a problem with the Jews. It's a problem with their God. Okay. The Judeo-Christian God. So the left has a problem with God. The right has a problem with the Jewish God, which is the Christian God as well, okay? What happened back in the 1930s, actually started in the 1920s, is remarkable how it has repeated itself. In the Weimar Republic in 1925 was the first transgender surgery in Berlin, okay? A guy said that he was a woman and wanted to be transgender, and so they tried surgical procedures, and they started to make him into a woman. He had surgery after surgery. By 1929, they killed him by trying to sew a womb inside of him, okay? This was all part of, and I don't remember what it was called, but basically the University of Sexology or Sex, or I don't remember. And it became this perversion of truth. And they started putting literature out, printing books. It started to go out into the schools. I didn't realize. Yes, it went through all of it. Here's what happened, and this is what I've really been worried about. The first books that were burned in Germany, they were not anti-Hitler books. They weren't literature. They were those books. The books that were talking about homosexuality, transgenderism, et cetera, and it came from the Christians who couldn't stop it. And they were like, what is happening to us? This is so evil and so twisted. It can't be here. What do we do? Well, those guys over there, they'll take care of it for us. And they they reached out to the brown shirts and the brown shirts. So they came in to stop this perversion of, what we're living in right now. They take it and they start burning books. Then all books. The churches had already lost their soul. By asking them to step in, they had already lost their soul. Those who were outside going, no, don't do that. That's not a good idea. They're the ones that had the chance of standing up against anti-Semitism. But by the time you get to 1933, there's very few people in churches. I mean, the churches in 1933 to 36, within 6 to 8 months of Hitler taking office, most of the churches were ready to remove the Old Testament.
Wow.
Okay? Because it was we got to get rid of the Jewish part of Christianity. Well, you can't get rid of the Jewish part of Christianity. That's how insane it became.
Yeah.
We're on that same track right now. So we have to be careful not to divide ourselves, not to have these purity tests on, you're not Christian enough. I'm going to let God sort that out, okay? But I must have a purity test on, are you saying that Jews rule the world and Jews killed Christ and Jews are the problem? Because if you're saying that, I'm not in your club. I'm not with whatever religion you're saying you're in. It's a perversion of that religion, and I'm not a part of that. That's the purity test.
Yeah.
The personality test, that we have to make sure we're not making more enemies and making people more famous. Just stand on the truth.
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned the Judeo-Christian there a couple of times. And of course, we don't have the time now to get into everything, but this seems to be one point. They're trying to remove the Judeo, just like you say they did back then. That argument has been had again now.
Yes.
As you are a history man, imagine that I am arguing with you that it's actually Christian. It's not. There shouldn't be Judea. It's just Christian. What is the case that it is a Judeo-Christian society?
The case is they're the first group of people that see God the way Christians understand God. One God. One. They're the first ones to say one God. They're the first ones to say, I can have a personal relationship with that one God, that he cares about me and I should serve him. And they issue the first rule book. They give us the 10 Commandments. Our entire society is built on the 10 Commandments. Everything is based on Old Testament. When you come to America, our founders, most people don't know the first seal of the United States of America. Benjamin Franklin wanted it to be the seal of Moses parting the waters with the pillar of fire behind it, because they believed that we were completing the journey to the promised land, that we were actually part of this Judeo-Christian movement to get away from the oppression and come here of a king, of a pharaoh. I said to a researcher who is the leading scholar on George Washington about 15 years ago, I said, I think you could make a case that George Washington and the founders believed that it was part of their responsibility and one of the gifts that they would provide, one of the things that they were hoping for was the reestablishment of Israel because of the establishment of the United States. And he said, I don't think you can make that case. And I said, I want you to read this letter, this letter, this letter. He actually ended up writing a book on it. I think, and so does he, you can at least make a case that our country, our founders, believed that this country was founded to help restore Israel and bring Israel back to the promised land.
So they were actually making references to it?
Yes.
Wow, I'd love to see.
So, I mean, you're fooling yourself if you think that we're disconnected from what happened. The entire Western world is connected to Exodus. It's connected to Genesis. It's connected to Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it seems part of the problem is that now people are trying to disentangle the modern Israel state with this ancient Israel.
Sure.
And so I guess I mean, that's perhaps where a lot of the problems have come, and I've seen.
I think that's a smokescreen.
Why so?
Because I don't think. Look, I'm a huge supporter of Israel.
Israel, the state.
Well, that's why I put quotes up. You could say, "Oh, Glenn Beck, he's a huge Zionist. He's a big supporter of Israel." No, I'm a big supporter of truth, and I'm a big supporter that Jews have a right to live. I know that's pretty basic, but that's what we're down to. Mm-hmm. You have a right to live and to defend yourself. They do not have a homeland. They never did. Their homeland is the only one that the Bible, we have thousands of years of documentation. That's their deed to that land, okay? The world got together and said, there's your land. How they run it, how they run I don't agree with their government. I don't agree on some things that they do to fight their wars or how they run their healthcare or whatever. I'm not supportive of that because it's not my job to be. I don't have to love the government of Israel. I don't have to agree with how they fight their wars. I don't have to agree with what they're asking our government to do. If you have a problem with that, talk to your representative. It's not the Jews coming in and fooling our representatives. If that's true, then you've hired rubes and boobs to represent you in Congress, okay? Your problem should be with the idiots in Congress. That's not true, but if it was, why are you pissed at Israel? You don't think we go? You don't think England goes to every country and says, hey, listen, we really think you should do this. We'd like to get you involved in this. Hey, I think this would be in your best interest. It's your politician's job. It's our politician's job to make sure if a country is coming and saying that we look at our interests first. Israel does it. We do it when we go to foreign lands. We're looking at our interest first. And we'll say, hey, you know what? I think this might be good for you too. Mm-hmm. But believe me, it's our interest is first when we're going to present that. Mm-hmm. Every country does that. So I think it's so entangled in lies and distortion that you have to just break it down and go, look, does Israel have a right to exist? Do they have a right to self-determination? Do they have a right to self-defense? Yeah, just as much as you do. Are they a legitimate country? Yeah. Probably more than most countries. The world got together and said, okay, this is your land. You may not agree with it, but, so be it. Mm-hmm. That's their right to exist. That's when it says, bless Israel and I will bless you. That's what I think God means. Do you believe the Jewish people have a right to exist? Will you stand up for the Jewish people? Will you stand up when they come for them, because they're going to come for them again and again and again and again? Will you hide a Jewish person? Will you feed a Jewish person if your life is at stake? That's what he means. Not, do you agree with their policies? Mm-hmm. Who cares? I don't think God cares about their policies.
Glenn, last question for you is that...
Has any of this made sense at all?
Sorry,
it does. I feel like I'm rambling.
It's poetic, and for me, what I hear is actually Israel is a people, and we're getting deliberately lost and confused and tricked by the
Forget about the state.
Yeah.
Forget about the state. And don't... And be careful when you say Israel is a people. Jews are one individual at a time.
Sure.
When you start to collectivize, this is why this happens every time. Once you start in this socialist collectivization, where it's the we instead of the I, it's easy to say all of those people over there. The number one thing, there were people that saved Germans, bad Germans, that would save Jews, but they would say, this is their quote. Well, that's my Jew. I know that Jew. He's not like the rest of them. No. You're just not acquainted with everybody else. There will be people in every group that you don't like, you do like, and are exactly like you, and people who are exactly like the people you don't like. They're individuals. We must support all individual rights to survive, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. And that's what's being taken. And it always comes for the Jew first.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty positive note, I think, to end on, at least in giving us a light and path forward. So, Glenn, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Appreciate it.